What is the best gun for home defense? That seems like a really subjective question. If you ask 20 gun guys, you're going to get 20 different answers, but they'll all just be basically telling you what they prefer. But it's not as subjective as you think, particularly if you look at it from the perspective of a non-gun guy. Like if you're already not a gun person, there is an objectively best type of gun for home defense. And if you are a gun guy, you can use this information to actually help people who ask you for advice on this topic. There is one type of gun that checks all the boxes for home defense for almost everybody, and it's none of this stuff. But now real quick, what is the best home defense gun to you? Like, what do you have for a home defense gun, or what do you think the best home defense gun is, and why? That's the most important question. That's the one I want answered in the comments below. Why do you think that? And now the scenario we're talking about here is going to be like kind of general. Maybe you have an inkling that something bad is happening. Maybe you're besieged. Maybe you hear someone knocking on your door or banging at 2 a.m. You go grab your stuff. This video is actually sponsored by Safe Life. Safe Life Defense makes body armor. They make my vest. I've put this thing through its paces. I've been to the range. I've been on the mats. It's the lightest, most comfortable body armor that I've ever worn. And I have used quite a few things. This is the 3A Plus. It's my favorite. You can use code HARD2HURT to get 10% off at Safe Life Defense, but right now they're doing their President's Day sale, which is 10% off site-wide. You can combine it with the code and get 20% off. They also have flexible rifle armor packages that come with concealable and overt carriers. They offer interest-free financing. So if you were at all kind of thinking, I would kind of like to look into body armor, I would go ahead and do it, because when the time comes and you're like, okay, I definitely need to get some body armor, you're not going to be able to get it then. Go visit Safe Life Defense, click the link down below, and use code HARD2HURT. But let's talk about the best gun for home defense, because there's probably already a bunch of rednecks saying, oh, you need to pump 12 gauge. You can't beat 12 gauge. You pump that thing. Woo! No, this is like literally the worst gun for home defense. Unless you have a ton of time behind it. If you've practiced a lot with this thing, then this is the best home defense gun for you. Maybe, kind of, sort of. I don't know, I'm not convinced. I still think it's objectively terrible, but that's a discussion for another video. Me personally, I would go to this old trusty thing here, this old 15-year-old rattle trap of a rifle that everyone makes fun of because I'm still rocking the carry handle and iron sights, and I put a pistol light on it. Do you know why I would pick this? Because I have the most practice with this one. I have a super fancy, tricked out one that's different, and it's theoretically the same thing, but I have more time with this one than I do with this one. So in a pinch, I would prefer to have this one in my hands. I'm more comfortable with it. But I would not recommend an AR-15 to a novice for home defense. I just wouldn't. There's a huge barrier for entry for becoming proficient with this thing. When you fire these, they're loud and obnoxious. They stink, and it costs a lot of money. And the gun itself costs a lot of money, which we'll get into that later. But they take a lot of practice to get good with these, and they're intimidating to new shooters. And you might think, in your gun guy wisdom, be like, yeah, right, they just need to get over it. They just need... Like, okay, they don't. They don't need to get over it. They don't need to become soldiers or Marines. They need something they can point at bad guys that will put holes in those bad guys to make those bad guys stop doing bad guy stuff. And you know, I'm not even totally convinced that my go-to in most situations would even be the rifle. I'd probably go with this. Here, the most perfect of pistols, a Gen 3 Glock 19 with stock Glock sights, because I can pick those up better because I learned on them. Everyone's gonna make fun of the sights. That's what I learned on. Why would I change it up? That's why I wouldn't pick up this. This is a better gun, by almost all metrics, but I don't have as much time on it. So I would opt for the one that I have the most time with. But a beginner doesn't have time on anything. They're not attached to any certain weapon platform. So why not get them something foolproof, right? Like a wheel gun. There's an old timer right now saying that's what they need. Get them a revolver. You could set it in a drawer for 600 years and pull it out. Pull that 74-pound trigger and that thing will still go off. Yeah, okay. But while that novice, who's under pressure already, is pulling that trigger, that barrel is going to be flying all over the place. And then you only gave them, well, this one's got 7 because I'm always extra. But maybe you gave them 6 rounds, 5 rounds. It's not a revolver either. When a novice, beginner, or non-gun person asks me, what should I get for home defense? I always give them the same answer. A pistol caliber carbine. A pistol caliber carbine. And I don't even care which one. Obviously I have some preferences I'll go over, but literally any of them. Pistol caliber carbines have a lot of advantages over shotguns, rifles, and handguns, particularly for home defense. For one, they use a blowback action, which action is just the way that the gun works. That's like how it actually functions, as opposed to being operated by gas like an AR-15. This is usually a simpler action, which means less things can go wrong. Cue some dude telling us how his custom $3,000 AR-15 has never hung up or jammed on him. Great, good for you. Pistol caliber carbines are also generally cheaper, which means more money for ammunition and practice. And speaking of ammunition, I recommend a 9mm one that takes Glock magazines. Now I've got 31 rounds in this gun, similar to an AR-15. So we've got similar capacity in a handier package that's cheaper to practice with less recoil. And speaking of cheaper, we've got this guy. You can go lighter and simpler, and light is another big part of it. When I put a rifle in Kristen's hands, she starts complaining immediately that she can't hold the thing up. This one puts the rounds back here in the grip, which makes it even handier. You've got way less weight out front. I could put this in her hands and she can hold this up all day, which is the whole point. She's not a gun person. She's not gonna practice a lot. But she could take this thing right here, and now she's got 31 rounds, and even if she doesn't even use the sights, if she has 2 points of contact that are spread out as opposed to like on a handgun, you have more leverage and control over it, and aiming this is more intuitive than aiming a handgun. Aiming a handgun is far less intuitive. You know, what you do with the gun impacts where the round lands more. If your trigger pull's not great, maybe at point blank range it's only this much of a difference. But across your house that could mean this much of a difference, which means a miss. But what about stopping power? My stopping power. Please. 31 rounds of 9mm. You're flinging enough lead that they're stopping. They're gonna at least stop what they're doing. People tend to stop what they're doing when you start shooting at them. And now you could go super complicated. I'm always so extra. I do kind of recommend a red dot. Funny enough, I don't have a red dot on my home defense gun because I don't have a lot of practice with it. I've always learned on stock sights or iron sights. That's just what I have the most practice in. But again, that novice, that friend or family member or spouse or whatever, doesn't have that practice. The red dot's better. It just is better. It's faster, it's better in all ways. You don't need backup iron sights. You'll be like, where's your backups? Well, like, dude, I don't need them because if I do this and I just start pulling the trigger, the bullets are gonna get where they need to go at household distances. Obviously, we do recommend a flashlight. I don't think I had to say that at this point. This is a little flash can which is supposed to direct the flash and the that way instead of this way. I'm not particularly recoil sensitive, so I don't mind all the bang and the smell and the smoke and stuff. It doesn't bother me, but I thought in setting one up for home defense, something I could put in Kristen's hands and she could definitely become useful almost instantaneously. This checks all those boxes. So we have a lightweight, high capacity, mistake forgiving, novice friendly, easy shooting, moderately powered, modular weapon. That is the best gun for home defense. Unless you already have your best gun for home defense. But then again, you're not the only person in your life or in your house, are you? Well, maybe you are. Maybe you are, so get down. Use a rocket launcher. Use a 12 gauge. Use a Derringer. I don't care. But if someone is asking you for help, this would be a good place to start most people. Some people will get hung up on the idea that you suggest that someone doesn't need to practice. No, they need to practice. I'm just suggesting that they're probably not gonna. Again, shout out to Safe Life Defense for sponsoring this video. Make sure you go check out that link down below and use that code Hard to Hurt to get 10% off. Use the code, you get a discount. They do interest-free payment plans. There's really not a lot. If you kind of want one. If you just want to wear it to the range, it makes like range life easier and you feel a little more comfortable. I feel weird now not wearing one, kind of like how you feel when you're not wearing a seatbelt in a car, assuming you wear a seatbelt. If you don't wear a seatbelt, like, dude, come on.